We start today with a report about attacks in the Canadian capital. Gunfire started yesterday morning, and when we put this show together, police were saying it was possible one or more suspects were still on the loose. Just a few days after Canada raised its national terror alert, there were two shooting incidents in the city of Ottawa. One was at the Canadian War Memorial near the country's Parliament building. Another was inside Parliament. A Canadian soldier at the War Memorial was shot and killed. Inside the Parliament building, several Canadian lawmakers tweeted that a guard killed a gunman there. Police said one male suspect was dead, but they also said there was more than one person involved in the shootings. This all happened 2 days after a man drove his car into two soldiers, killing one of them in Quebec. Police fatally shot that suspect afterward. They called that incident a terrorist attack, saying the suspect had recently converted to radical Islam. The suspect in yesterday's shootings also had reportedly converted, but officials say they don't know if these assaults are related in any way. In the U.S., the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has been under criticism. Lawmakers and caregivers say the CDC didn't sufficiently prepare hospitals or healthcare workers to safely treat Ebola patients. So the CDC has updated its guidelines. 3 notable changes. 1. Caregivers will now receive rigorous training and practice before they treat an Ebola patient. 2. Every inch of their skin must now be covered when they treat an Ebola patient. 3. They'll be supervised as they put on and take off their protective equipment, ensuring no exposure occurs during that time. The CDC's director says even one healthcare worker infection is one too many. Also, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security says airline passengers arriving from Ebola-stricken countries must now land at one of these 5 U.S. airports. They have enhanced Ebola screening in place. Dr. Seuss's real name was Theodore Seuss Geisel. His editor once bet him that he couldn't write a book using just 50 different words or less. He did. The result? Green Eggs and Ham. It has exactly 50 different words. It's random. As you've studied World War II, you've heard about fighting in Europe, North Africa, the Pacific. Here's evidence of just how close that war came to the continental U.S. You're looking at a sonar image of a sunken German U-boat, a submarine. Its location, 30 miles off Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. U-576 was sunk on July 14, 1942. Its wreck was found just this August, not far from a tanker it had sunk. But all of the tanker's passengers and crew survived. All aboard the German sub were killed. The site's considered a war grave and protected by international law. And it's not the only one close to American shores. The U.S. sank U-166 in the Gulf of Mexico on July 30th, 1942, after it had torpedoed an American steamer. Both of those ships were explored this summer. U-boats sank dozens of American ships in the Gulf, but this was the only U-boat destroyed there. It's one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. What happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370? Yesterday, Malaysia's defense minister promised the missing passenger jet would be found, and another ship is about to join the search that's centered about 1,100 miles off the west coast of Australia. There's been no sign of the plane since it vanished on March 8th with 239 people aboard. Its wreckage may hold the only answers to the mystery.
Following a plane crash, the search for survivors always comes first. But just as important is the search for answers, the why and the how. Often those answers are found in the black box. Since the 60s, all commercial airplanes have been required to have one on board. Now, the name is a little misleading because they're actually orange. And when we're talking about a black box, we're talking about 2 different boxes, one being the cockpit voice recorder, the other being the flight data recorder. Together, they weigh anywhere between 20 to 30 pounds, and they have to be crash-proof. Black boxes can survive just about anything. Temperatures up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for an hour. Forces that are 3,400 Gs. Now, that's 3,400 times the force of gravity. They're waterproof, and they can save recorded data for 2 years. And it's a lot of data. data. The cockpit voice recorder records the crew's conversation and background noise. By listening to the ambient sounds in a cockpit before a crash, experts can determine if a stall took place, the RPMs of the engine, and the speed at which the plane was traveling. When these sounds are cross-referenced with ground control conversations, they can even help searchers locate a crash site. Then there's the flight data recorder. It gathers 25 hours of technical data from airplane sensors, recording several thousand discrete pieces of information. Data about the airspeed, altitude, pitch, acceleration, roll, fuel, and the list goes on and on. But to make sense of the data, first you have to find it. Not an easy thing to do when a plane crashes into the ocean. Both black box components are outfitted with underwater locator beacons, which self-activate the moment they come into contact with water. They send pings once per second to signal their location and can transmit data from as deep as 20,000 feet for up to 30 days, when their batteries then run out. But on land, there's no such pinging to help guide the search. Investigators have to sift through the wreckage until they find it.
It's time to take roll, y'all. Here's who's watching and requesting on our transcript page at cnnstudentnews.com. The Balboa Academy Dragons are first up. They're in the capital of Panama. Welcome to Panama City. Up north in the Ocean State, it's the Islanders who are next. Middletown High School in Middletown, Rhode Island. Good to see you. And the Show Me State. The Fatima High School Comets are on today's roll from Westphalia, Missouri. Hinduism is the world's third largest religion behind Christianity and Islam. That's largely due to the number of the Hindu faithful in India. They compose 80% of the world's second most populated nation. Diwali is one of Hinduism's major religious festivals. It usually falls in October or November. The name Diwali comes from a Sanskrit word that means row of lights. Traditionally, small oil lamps are lit on homes and temples and set afloat on rivers. It's a celebration of a new year. There are religious ceremonies, gifts exchanged, new clothes, and feasting. And for India, that means business in stores and online.
Diwali, India's most important festival. 5 days of fireworks, rituals, celebration, and most importantly, shopping.
Let me see the back.
For retailers like Mike Bansal, Diwali can account for up to a third of their annual sales. And this year, well, it's never been better. The exponential growth largely owing to e-commerce sites like Snapdeal. In the lead-up to this holiday season, founder and CEO Kunal Bal says Snapdeal sold one smartphone every 6 seconds, a laptop every 20 seconds, and a pair of shoes every 10 seconds.
Snapdeal works like a virtual marketplace similar to China's Alibaba. They don't buy or keep their own stock in an inventory, so all the products are brought here. They've got deodorants, they've got smartphones, they've got razors, and everything is brought to centers like this, packaged and then distributed.
Snapdeal will deliver some 20 million products across 5,000 towns and cities in India this month. Other leading e-commerce sites like Flipkart and Amazon India boast similar numbers. Online retail in India grew 88% last year. Millions of Indians living in small towns and villages like these now shopping online with smartphones. For small business owners like Bansal, it's transformed the way they think.
The market opens up to the whole of India. Now we get customers from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, you can say.
In other words, from North to South India. There are currently 243 million internet users in India. That too is expected to more than double by 2020. What does it say about the potential of e-commerce in India? Well, the math is quite simple.
From the world's second most populated country to the world's #1. Last story today is from China. If you don't mind a little acrophobia with your appetizer, why not order up a nice view with your lunch? As a way to advertise his apartments, a developer recently allowed daring diners to eat their lunch on a crane or suspended from one. Maybe it's safe. You certainly wouldn't be worried about breaking a dish, and you wouldn't have to crane your neck to look around, assuming you can handle the suspense. The idea is food for thought. It seems nothing's off the table. You get a great view of the skyline from the skyline, and after your meal, hey, you could just hang out. Thanks for craning your eyes on CNN Student News. I'm Carl Azus. We're back Friday.